following announcement has been paid for by the new Howl Order.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, we're through 6 weeks of football, heading into Week 7. Washington is 3-3, the best start under Ron Rivera in his 4 years in Washington. And, you know, some things have happened this season that we probably didn't expect. A couple of curveballs. Obviously, the Bears game probably stands out among all of the things that have caught us by surprise this year. But I want to ask you a question. And I want you to think about this long and hard. And you can take the low-hanging fruit if you'd like. But I want you to give this some thought, and I want you to answer this in the comment section. I'm really anxious to read your comments here. What is the biggest surprise through the first 6 weeks of the season as we head into Week 7? What is the biggest surprise that has struck you with this Commanders team as we get through the first 6 weeks of the season? What's the biggest surprise for you thus far? It can be good or bad. If you weren't on board with Sam Howell, if you weren't Team NHO, and he's won you over, and that's the biggest surprise, so be it. Let me hear about it. I think there are a lot of options here because a lot of you thought this defense was going to be this top flight unit that was going to carry this team again, and I just wasn't sold before the season started. The offensive line was a big problem for a lot of you. Maybe they're doing exactly what you thought they were going to do. Maybe not. There are a lot of options. What says you? Biggest surprise. I'll tell you what my biggest surprise is, and I'll be brief with this. I don't want to hold you here that long. My biggest surprise to this point of the season is the inability to get our best players offensively the football. I thought this offense, and it still has a chance to be very dynamic, and it has had flashes of being extremely dynamic. Again, we've scored over 30 points twice already in the first. We did that in the first 4 weeks of the season, which we hadn't done that. I don't know if we've done it twice in the first 3 years of Rivera combined. Probably 2 or 3 times max. So we've shown flashes of what this offense can do. We saw what they did against the Falcons in limited opportunities in terms of, rhythm and flow, especially in that second half. That first half, they were humming. Like, I went back, watched that game several times. They were humming in that first half, man. Sam was locked in. You had the drop by Jahan. That could have been a huge play. Again, don't want to overstate that drop because we scored on that possession, but you don't want those drops, and that would have really made Sam's numbers look even better had that completion been had and Jahan take off and run with that thing. I think he would have scored. But again, I thought EB's play calling was really good in the first half. We saw the screen game. We saw the run game, even though it was largely ineffective. He didn't go away from it. We saw Curtis Samuel getting involved. We saw Terry getting involved. We saw the best players on the team getting targets and touches, sans for Jahan Dotson for the most part. We saw Antonio Gibson get involved and get his first score of the season. And I want to see consistency. And again, and somebody reminded me again, and often I try to remind myself that this is EB's first time as the guy, as the play caller. He keeps trying to remind us, hey, I called plays in Kansas City. And I'm like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You might have called them into the helmet of Patrick Mahomes, but that wasn't your show. This here is your show, okay? This is you having to string together plays and figure out what the rhythm and the flow of the game is and what you should or shouldn't call here. And like he's been saying about Sam, a lot of times it's Sam's first time seeing something. A lot of times this is EB's first time experiencing some of this stuff on his own. So I probably need to show him a little bit more grace and mercy. But I've been really disappointed in the amount of targets for Terry, Jahan, Curtis, the creativity in which Curtis and Antonio Gibson touched the football in particular has bothered me. The lack of targets for Cole Turner, who I thought Sam showed a really good rapport with in the preseason, has been really disappointing that he hasn't had more opportunities. It's kind of very similar to us crying about not seeing more opportunities and touches for Amani Rodgers last year. Like we like, hey, you could throw him a tight end screen every game or two, right? You can find him ways to get touches. He's so athletic. Let's find a way to get Amani Rodgers involved. And I feel like they can do something with Cole Turner, and they're just not, right? That's disappointing. That the only time he can really get on the field and get involved in the offense is if Logan Thomas isn't healthy and not playing. Like that's garbage to me. So that's my biggest gripe to date. And the thing that I'm most surprised, I thought this would be a breakout season for everybody. This was going to be all hands on deck. Everybody eats. Because I expected Sam to be good. You guys know that. So I was expecting Terry to be crushing it right now. I was expecting Jahan to be right on, behind him, nipping at his heels. Curtis, I think Curtis has been the standout. If you name Curtis as a surprise to this point, that's a good one, because I think Curtis is playing exceptional football right now. I mean, he's been outstanding for us. I've been pleasantly surprised, and it's not like I didn't know he was capable. I just wasn't expecting him to be one of the best options that we had. Literally, it's Terry, and right behind him, and I'm talking about nipping at his heels, it's Curtis. You could even argue Curtis has had a bigger impact. He scored more touchdowns than anybody on the team to this point, outside of probably Brian Robinson. I think Curtis has scored a touchdown in each of the last 3 games, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken. So I've been pleasantly surprised with him, but I need to see more from EB as a play caller, getting guys involved, getting playmakers touches in space. I don't care how you do it, scheme it up. And he's had some cute plays, has EB. I thought that screen that they threw was I thought it was set up that way for Sam to roll out to his right and throw back across to Brian. I think it just, the timing of that screen got messed up. Sam improvised, so did Brian Robinson, and it worked out for the best. I initially was giving EB credit for designing this ridiculously beautiful screen that you just don't see rollout screens. That might have been the first one I've ever seen, where a guy actually sprints out to his right, throws back across his body, and it's a screen setup. I've never seen that before, but I don't think that's how it was intended. If you look at the play, Brian Robinson bumps into a couple of guys that are rushing. It slows him down to get out. I think Sam started to panic, rolls out, and then he finds Brian Robinson leaking out late, and he hits him. And hell of a job by the offensive lineman, because even Cosme, who could have been flagged for being illegally downfield, I don't think he was that far downfield. I honestly think when Robinson catches that ball, he looks like he's a yard within the line of scrimmage. I actually think it's a good no call. But credit Cosme for not getting too far down the field. Sadiq Charles. It made me think that maybe, just maybe, that was planned. That rollout was planned. Because generally, if a screen is supposed to be a normal screen setup, the quarterback gets depth. They continue to backpedal to try to set that screen up, not roll out and create a passing angle. I don't know. If it was designed that way for him to roll out, that shit was beautiful. Whatever the case, the result was undeniable. But we got to find more creative ways to get Antonio Gibson touches, because we know he can be a problem. We got to design more ways for Jahan to touch the football, for Curtis to touch the football. I think Curtis needs to touch it as a runner a little bit more, and it doesn't have to be, outside, gun outside zone, for Curtis, out of shotgun, right? Or, a middle run that he bounces out, or something that he just slams up inside the A or B gap. Like, I would love to see them utilize Curtis out on the edges. Same with Antonio Gibson. Like, let's get creative. I've been disappointed with the lack of creativity in getting your best players involved in the offense and getting them touches. That's the thing that has surprised me to this point, is the lack of touches. I think Terry's got something like 41 or 42 targets on the season. Let me say this again. There was a game this season where Keenan Allen had 22 targets. He essentially had more than half of the targets Terry has on the season in one game. Make it make sense. I bet you Cooper Kupp, who just came back last week, he's only played in 2 games. I bet you Cooper Kupp already has north of 20 targets already. Yet our best receiver can't seem to find a way to get more than 8 or 9 in a ball game. And if he does, if it's 10 or 11, 3 or 4 of them are garbage targets where they really don't count. Quarterback's throwing it over his head to get rid of it, throwing it in the ground, he's covered, whatever the case may be. They're not legitimate targets. Anyway, what says you? Leave it down in the comment section. Biggest surprise to this point of the season as it pertains to the Commanders. I can't wait to read your responses. So we move on to in other news. I think Fidarian Mathis is about to open his window this week. He tweeted out, something to the effect of you can't keep, a good man down. It wasn't that. He said something else. I just can't remember, but that was the gist of it, right? You can't keep a good man down, essentially. And so I think that's his way of saying, I'm ready and I'm coming back. They're going to open that window up like they did FA last week. And I should be playing this week in week 7 against the Giants. I'm excited if that's the case because we still don't even know what Fidarian Mathis brings to the table. We haven't seen him in an NFL game since his rookie season, week 1, when he, got injured and missed the entire season. So I'm excited a little bit if that is in fact the case. And I think him tweeting that out is a precursor to them opening his window starting on Wednesday. Him practicing all week, just like FA did last week. And him potentially being up and ready to go. I'm ready to see this defensive line at full strength. We're practically there with FA being back. And if Phidarian comes back, we saw the game John Ridgeway turned in last week. I'm excited to see this thing get to where we can get a real rotation in and get some of these guys a little bit of a breather, man. With Casey playing the way that he played last week, I think there's some more snaps in there for him. Obviously, we got to see what's going on with Daron Payne and Montez Sweat's hands. Both of them injured their fingers in the game. I think Sweat's is a little bit more concerning than Daron. Daron's was a dislocated finger. We know what it was. He snapped it back into place and went back into the game. Sweat, on the other hand, we saw him briefly come back, but he didn't last for very long. So more concern there. But the good thing is we haven't heard from Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport about either of their injuries. So it leads me to believe that they're going to be relatively minor. And that's me talking about somebody else's finger injury. But I think we're going to dodge a bullet with, maybe multiple bullets with both of those guys. And I'm dying to see this defensive line at full strength because we just seem to never be able to get it at full mass. So this might be an opportunity for us to finally do that. We'll see what happens this week. I expect the injury report to be a little bit more robust this week. It's been pretty slim the first 6 weeks, knocking on a little bit of wood. It's been awesome. I think that's about to change here heading into week 7 versus the Giants, but we will see. Let's take a trip around the NFC East quickly. Obviously, Washington gets the win over the Atlanta Falcons, brings them back to 500 on the season at 3-3. The Giants fell on Sunday Night Football, which we expected, but not in the manner that it happened. They had every opportunity to steal that game from the Buffalo Bills. They lose 14-9 and drop to 1-5 on the season. And we've got a chance to, their season is over, but we got a chance to really bury the Giants. And we'll see if we take advantage of that opportunity. I think Tyrod Taylor's going to start. I don't know how I feel about that right now. I was really looking forward to beating Daniel Jones. But I will say when Daniel Jones doesn't play, we usually do beat the Giants. But I really wanted Daniel Jones. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I just want to beat the Giants. I don't really give a shit who's at quarterback. So they're 1-5. Bring up the rear of the division. Dallas got it done last night. A gutsy performance by the Cowboys. It was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination. Neither was our victory. And in this league, who cares about aesthetics? You just care about getting the dub. Too many of you guys get hung up on how pretty it looked and how you feel after the game. Just understand that it's all about wins and losses, left and right hand column. Put another one in the left hand column and keep it pushing, and we'll figure out how to get the things cleaned up that we didn't do so well. That's what the Cowboys did. They're heading into their bye week at 4-2, feeling really good about themselves after getting that bad taste out of their mouth with that loss against San Francisco. So a big win for the Cowboys. They remain a game behind Philadelphia now because the Eagles got their first loss of the season, losing to the New York Jets. It was an ugly performance by the Eagles. It was reminiscent of them playing against us last year when they self-destructed. They turned the ball over 4 times in this game. They missed a field goal, a chip shot field goal. I mean, anything that could go wrong did go wrong. And it really was eye-opening to me because I felt like the Eagles hadn't been playing really good football all season long, but they've been getting away with it because when you have championship medal, you find ways to win. That's what the good teams in this league do. They find a way to make enough plays to win. For the first time this season, they weren't able to do that. So they dropped to 5-1. Jets beat them 20-14, and they go out and they sign Julio Jones. But, you know, he's at the point of his career similar to T.Y. Hilton towards the end of his career where he's no longer, you know, T.Y. Hilton. He was Eugene Hilton. We're at the point now where Julio Jones is no longer Julio Jones. He's Quintorris Lopez right now, right? Like, he's no longer Julio. So, once again, the Eagles lose a game and they panic and they go out to the old folks' home and look for help. So I'm guessing after their secondary gets cooked on Sunday Night Football against the Dolphins, they'll go out and they'll sign, I don't know, Dick Sherman and Eric Berry next week is my guess. We'll see. We'll see what they decide to do, man. Every time they lose a game, they got to go sign somebody, some big name that's going to have a minimal impact. So we'll see. We'll see what happens and what Julio Jones or Quintorris Lopez brings to the table for the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. But they're 5-1, still atop the division, and with the 49ers loss, still atop the NFC as a whole. However, they look vulnerable, and I've been saying that all season long, and I've been called delusional because I've said they've looked vulnerable. And so I'm not surprised that they lost that game. And I think they could lose, 4 or 5, 4 out of their next 5. 3 out of their next 5. I think they could lose a bevy of games here coming up. Their schedule's getting real now. That was supposed to be the last one before shit got real for them. Dolphins, at Commanders. I think it's Cowboys after that. Then it's like the Chiefs. Then it's the Bills. Then it's like, I think it's the 49ers. And then it's like Dallas again. Like, this shit's it's like, this is the point of the season where we're going to find out how good Philadelphia really is. I got my popcorn ready. I can't speak for you. I got my shit ready. Anyway, again, we have to take care of our business though. They could lose every single game the remainder of the season. If we don't win any, they still are ahead of us in the division. So we got to take care of business. And that's the bottom line. And we got a golden opportunity to do that this week. And much like the Bears game a couple of weeks ago, here's an opportunity for you to take care of business. I like our chances in this game. I like our chances. But again, we'll see. This isn't a quick turnaround, short week. None of that bullshit. They know what it is. They know what's in front of them. They know the opportunity. Now let's go and seize it. And it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback for them. Doesn't matter if Andrew Thomas is back at left tackle. None of that shit. Dominate this Giants team. You saw what happens when you let them hang around. They gain confidence. And that's any team in the NFL. You let them hang around. You tell them that they got a shot. They start believing that. Now you got a fight on your hands. And if you're not careful, you'll lose. The Bills, because generally when you're a good football team and you've been through enough of these wars, you find a way to win. The Bills found a way to win. We're not the Bills and we're not the Eagles. We don't find ways to win games like that very often. Okay, so we need to make sure that we set the tone early. That was the message against the Bears, and that didn't go so well for us. So I hope they take heed to what the Giants did against the Bills. And I think that's a good thing. even though the Bears did something similar. Had a shot to win and blew it against the Broncos the week before they played us. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow night live for CNN. We will talk about what happened the first day of practice for the week as we gear up for the Giants. I would have had a chance to take a look at the film, so we will have an opportunity to kind of put a bow on the Week 6 performance and then kind of move forward into Week 7 and start transitioning into the Giants and seeing if we can't get on the board in the NFC East. We're 0-1 in the division right now. We got a chance to get in the left-hand column and maybe start to get hot. Maybe that Falcons game starts off a nice chain of events for us, and we start getting the ball rolling here. Or as my guy Joe Rockhead says, maybe the false resurrection actually happens and it turns into a real resurrection this year. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys take care. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone. Touchdown.